Is the Duchess of York's past about to cost her again? Because after decades of chaos, controversy, and a reputation that just won't stay buried, it looks like Sarah Ferguson's old mistakes are catching up fast. Charities once happy to use her royal shine are suddenly stepping away. Whispers about money troubles are growing louder, and some claim the Duchess might soon be forced to leave the life she's clung to for years. She was never the fairy tale Duchess the palace hoped for. From day one, Sarah Ferguson was wild energy wrapped in royal ribbons, charming at first but impossible to control. Now, with her name surfacing again in connection to the Epstein fallout and financial desperation, many are wondering, is this the final chapter for the woman who once brought laughter into the monarchy and left it in disgrace? When Sarah Ferguson married Prince Andrew on July 23, 1986, Britain fell briefly under her spell. The press called her Fergie, the fun duchess who smiled too big, talked too much, and seemed to make the royals look human again. For a moment, she was everything the palace needed, a burst of personality after years of stiff formality. But that honeymoon glow didn't last. Behind palace doors, courtiers complained she was too loud, too casual, too eager for attention. The Queen tolerated her. Prince Philip never trusted her. Still, Fergie tried to fit in, waving from balconies, visiting charities, and doing her best to balance motherhood with royal duty. But to the palace, she was a walking headline waiting to happen. Her free spirit clashed with the institution's obsession with control, and every joke or flamboyant outfit became proof that she didn't belong. What began as a fairy tale was already turning into something else, a slow-burning disaster dressed in tiaras. Fergie often said she married for love, but love was the one thing she barely got to keep. Prince Andrew's naval career took him away for most of the year, leaving her alone in the palace with 2 young daughters and endless expectations. She once admitted she saw her husband for only 40 days a year, hardly a marriage by any standard. The courtiers wanted her silent, obedient, invisible, but Sarah had never been any of those things. Loneliness pushed her to fill the void with laughter, travel, and friendships that blurred into scandal. Then came Steve Wyatt, a charming Texan businessman she met in 1989. He wasn't intimidated by her title. He treated her like a woman, not a duchess. Their connection was instant, and by most accounts, romantic. Even as she carried her second child, rumors swirled that the Duchess of York was playing with fire. And in the royal world, emotional escape is the kind of sin that always leaves scars. By 1992, Sarah Ferguson had crossed an invisible line. Not only had her marriage collapsed in private, but her private life had exploded in public. The now infamous photographs from her south of France holiday showed her topless by the pool as her financial advisor, John Bryan, kissed and sucked her toes. Within hours, the images hit every front page on the planet. The Queen was reportedly heartbroken, Prince Philip livid, and the public stunned. Overnight, the bubbly Duchess became a national embarrassment. Royal biographers later wrote that no scandal before or since had caused such humiliation to the Windsors. And the cruelest irony, her 2 daughters were said to have been nearby when it happened. In one summer, the woman once called the palace's ray of sunshine became a tabloid cautionary tale. The fall was complete, but Fergie, stubborn as ever, refused to disappear. The 1996 divorce sealed her fate. While Princess Diana walked away with millions and sympathy, Sarah left with a modest settlement barely enough to sustain her royal image. Stripped of official duties and without real protection, she began to chase reinvention, books, interviews, brand endorsements, anything to rebuild her life. She launched weight loss ventures, children's stories, and lifestyle products. But every step toward independence seemed to collapse under mismanagement or scandal. The tabloids mocked her as desperate, the palace rolled its eyes, and she kept smiling through it all. For a while, she found a second wind in America, charming talk shows and audiences who saw her as the Duchess who dared to laugh at herself. Yet even across the Atlantic, her reputation for poor judgment followed her like a shadow she couldn't shake. If one scandal defined her 90s, another would haunt her decades later. In the early 2000s, Sarah accepted money from Jeffrey Epstein to help pay off debts, a decision she later called a giant mistake. When Epstein's crimes became global news, that association resurfaced like a ghost she couldn't bury. Emails showed her apologizing to him, claiming she had been threatened. Whether that's true or not, the optics were devastating. Here was a royal insider again, linked to a man accused of unspeakable acts. When Prince Andrew's own connection to Epstein erupted years later, the backlash reignited against her too. Charities began cutting ties. Brand deals quietly dissolved. Once again, Fergie was radioactive, not because of what she did this time, but because of who she'd chosen to stand beside. After her divorce, few expected Fergie and Andrew to remain close, let alone live together. Yet for nearly 2 decades, they shared Royal Lodge, a sprawling estate in Windsor Great Park, as divorced roommates, co-parents, and enduring partners of convenience. Publicly, they called themselves the happiest divorced couple in the world. Privately, it was a strange coexistence that raised eyebrows at every royal dinner. But in recent years, the cracks have widened. Andrew's downfall after his Epstein ties forced him into royal exile, cutting off both their income and status. Reports now claim that their shared home may soon be sold or divided, and that Sarah is quietly preparing to move abroad. Once again, her comfort depends on a man's fortune, and that fortune, for both of them, is running out fast. Every time Fergie fades from the headlines, she finds a way back, not always intentionally. From children's books to wellness products, from TV cameos to motivational speeches, she keeps trying to rebrand herself as the survivor Duchess. Yet her ventures often end the same way: controversy, confusion, and criticism. Her latest projects have been met with lukewarm reviews, and her association with questionable businesses, including a now-defunct cryptocurrency firm, only deepened public doubt. Supporters say she's resilient. Critics say she's addicted to attention. Either way, she's proof that in the modern royal circus, notoriety can be its own currency, one that Fergie keeps spending even when the balance is long overdue. Recently, charities linked to Sarah Ferguson have scrambled to distance themselves, some issuing statements clarifying she no longer holds any active role. The shift was subtle at first, her name quietly removed from websites, event invitations reworded, but the message was unmistakable. The Duchess had become a liability. In today's world of social accountability, no brand or foundation wants to risk guilt by association, especially when Epstein's name hovers in the background. The irony is painful. Sarah once prided herself on her charity work, calling it her redemption after royal disgrace. Now that very arena is slipping away. The woman who used philanthropy to rebuild her image is discovering that even good deeds can't outrun a bad reputation. Decades after her exile from royal duties, Sarah Ferguson's public image remains fractured. She's both pitied and ridiculed, both forgiven and forgotten. One moment she's giving interviews about kindness and healing. The next she's photographed at events that reignite old gossip. To many, she embodies the contradiction of modern fame craving privacy yet chasing cameras. Her defenders insist she's misunderstood, that she's paid for her mistakes 100 times over. But her critics argue she's never learned, that every fresh start turns into another scandal. And now, with charities stepping away and financial cracks widening, she faces a reality harsher than any tabloid headline. She's running out of second chances. Behind the headlines of reinvention lies a quieter crisis: money. Reports suggest the Duchess's spending outpaces her earnings, and with Andrew's royal privileges gone, their shared cushion has all but vanished. She's been seen promoting everything from books to skincare products, but the deals are small and inconsistent. Those close to her say she's determined to avoid another bankruptcy, but others claim she's treading dangerously close. Rumors of selling properties abroad, cutting staff, and downsizing her lifestyle have begun to circulate. The once lavish life of the Duchess of York is now a balancing act between image and insolvency, and for someone who's always defined herself by visibility, disappearing quietly isn't an option. Insiders whisper that Sarah may be planning her next act far from British soil, perhaps in the US, perhaps Dubai, anywhere she can start over without the ghost of Windsor looking over her shoulder. She's been making appearances that feel strategic, talking about new beginnings, forgiveness, and moving forward. Yet the question remains: can you really reinvent yourself when your scandals are permanently archived online and in royal history books? Sarah Ferguson has always been her own paradox, the rebel duchess who never learned restraint, the exile who refuses to fade. But maybe that's the key to her survival. She keeps moving, even when the world keeps watching her stumble. So here we are again, nearly 40 years after she first waved from that palace balcony, the same Duchess, the same drama, just a different decade. Sarah Ferguson has blamed loneliness, pressure, and bad luck for her troubles, but at some point the pattern speaks for itself. She chooses chaos, and chaos always answers. Whether she's the victim of circumstance or the architect of her own disgrace, one truth stands out: she never truly left the stage. The question now is whether the curtain is finally closing, or if Fergie, as always, has one more act left in her. What do you think? Is she unfairly haunted by the past, or is she reaping the consequences she never escaped? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned, because in the royal world, the next scandal is always closer than you think.